Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, Pigskin Addicts. Back again with another video. So, yesterday I made the video about the Chargers and what I personally think is going to happen with the fifth pick. I don't think it's a surprise. I think Malik Neighbors is the guy that the Chargers end up going for. But there are some other scenarios in play here. And I think, I should cover everything, right? No matter how likely it is to happen. I think it's fair to cover everything, but there is a scenario out there where the Vikings trade up to take a quarterback that they like. I know that they are really interested in former Michigan quarterback J.J. McCarthy. I know he is a guy that is, been moving up a lot of people's draft boards, and they're obviously interested in him. They obviously have, a need to fill at the quarterback position. So I think they're going to be fairly aggressive. Now, they have the number 11 and number 23 picks in the first round of the draft. And those two are going to have to be in play if they hope to move up within the top five. I don't think there's a team in the top five that is going to require the Vikings to move up without giving up both of those first round draft picks. You're going to have to give both of those up. I think they know that too. So, they are really looking for a guy that they really, really like, a guy who they feel like can be their, franchise quarterback for the next, 12 years or whatever. So I think that they're really in on J.J. McCarthy. And I think, the Chargers are going to be fielding calls. I don't know if they have already, but I know for sure, they're going to at least field a few calls before the draft, maybe on draft night as well, too. But basically, if the Chargers do pull the trigger and give up that fifth pick for number 11 and number 23, I don't think that is a bad thing. I honestly don't. There are a lot of position needs to fill, right? And crucial positions that you need to fill, if you hope to be competitive. The Chargers have a lot of holes, and it would not be a bad thing at all if they traded down and were able to pick up, some more extra picks. I think it would be a good thing, especially for a team that is strapped for cash like the Chargers are, being able to pick up good players on rookie deals. That's an ideal situation in the NFL. That's what a lot of teams set themselves up for, especially once you have your quarterback in place. If you can find value all around the draft, that's what you want to do, because you need depth on your team. And, that's what the Chargers have not had the past couple of seasons. So I think this is in play. I honestly do think it is in play. Again, I don't think it's as likely as the Chargers just drafting Malik Neighbors outright, but I do think it's in play. And if it is in play, and if something like that were to happen, I think the Chargers would get great value by drafting this man that you see on the screen here, Troy Franklin. For a lot of you guys, a lot of you newer subscribers and viewers to my channel, if you guys don't know, I've been a diehard USC Trojan fan for pretty much all my life. I've been a Trojan fan for about the same amount of time as I've been a Charger fan, which is about 20-ish years. So I watch a lot of Pac-12 football. I catch a lot of the games. I like to see, what type of talent is revolving around the Pac-12. And I was really, really impressed watching Troy Franklin on the Oregon offense. He was a guy that really, really stood out to me. Not just when he played USC, he torched USC, but he is a guy, he really, really stands out because he reminds me of somebody. And, thinking about this video over the past couple of days, right, I knew I was going to do this video just based on the scenarios that could happen. And, watching Troy Franklin, watching his highlights, watching a little bit of his tape, I'm like, damn, who does he remind me of? He reminds me of somebody a little bit. Who does this guy remind me of? And, I'm looking things up, and I'm like, am I crazy for thinking that he reminds me of this certain guy? And as I've done my research, I realized that I'm not crazy. Now, I'm not comparing him. I'm not comparing Troy Franklin. I'm not putting expectations on this young man like this. But he does remind me of somebody. This is who Troy Franklin reminds me of. Justin Jefferson, LSU Justin Jefferson. Now, before you guys call me crazy, before you say, I've lost it or whatever, let's look at some things. Let's look at some facts here. Now, Justin Jefferson, before you get into any stats, whatever, when he came out of LSU, 6'1", 202 pounds, Troy Franklin, 6'2", 170 pounds. So there is obviously a discrepancy there as far as their weight is concerned. Justin Jefferson has him by 30 pounds, and that's not nothing. It's obviously something. 30 pounds is a lot, especially in the NFL. Troy Franklin he's more slender, a lot more slender than Justin Jefferson is, but the body frame is pretty much the same, right? A taller guy, very wiry. But I think the number one thing that really, really puts it over the top for me as far as the comparison goes is the suddenness at the top of their routes. This is something that I talk about all the time, guys. When I personally evaluate wide receivers, I'm looking at their hips, right? I know production means something, but I'm looking at their hips. When I'm looking at the film, I'm looking at their hips. What do they look like running certain routes, right? And these are specific routes. Your in routes, your out routes, right? Routes where you have to really, really be able to be precise and break it off, either inside, outside. What do your hips look like, and how do DBs react to it? Troy Franklin has a lot of suddenness at the top of his routes. He's not the biggest guy, but he can get open with the best of them in college football. Oregon, they were a good team. They weren't the best team in the nation by any stretch. They were a good team. They had a lot of talent, but this guy stands out. And Oregon, they did not play, a soft cupcake schedule. They had, some tough games on their schedule. They lost a couple of games as well too. But I think when you look at who they were playing, right? Troy Franklin is playing other NFL players. You look at, your Utahs, you look at your USCs, you look at your Washingtons. He's playing against other NFL players, and he's putting up numbers, he's putting up stats, and he's looking like he belongs, right? So that's why I'm saying he's not Justin Jefferson. I'm not saying that he is Justin Jefferson, but they have some of the same attributes that really stand out on tape. Hips. How do your hips look? Justin Jefferson is a guy, he's elite. He has elite wiggle in his hips. He is able to get open. Justin Jefferson gets open. He gets the most wide open in the league, right? I don't think I've ever seen that. Like, he gets open. When he's open, he is open by, 3-4 yards. His separation is really, really elite. We know a guy like that, right? Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen is a guy, his hip movement, elite wiggle. Not the fastest guy as far as the straight line goes, but elite wiggle at the top of your routes. This is precisely why I did not like the Quentin Johnston draft pick last year, because I watched him on tape. He's a big, strong guy, but very robotic. His running upright, his hips are very, very tight. And outside of running go routes, outside of running, longer, more developing routes down the field, outside of that, his short routes, his intermediate routes, they weren't that great to me, because I knew he wasn't going to be able to get open in the NFL all that much, because you have nothing that is gonna make a NFL DB react or overreact or overplay you inside or overplay you outside. His movement doesn't really quantify that, and we seen that this year. He was not able to get all that open. But I really, 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 really like Troy Franklin. I think the Chargers could get very good value with this kid if a trade were to happen, and I think that he would be there at 23. I honestly do. So whatever needs the Chargers have, right, which is a lot, whoever that is at number 11, it could be anybody, right? It could be, somebody on defense, somebody on offense, it could be that. And I think Troy Franklin is still going to be there at number 23. I think he is a guy that could really come in and get open. And again, I think he plays a lot like Justin Jefferson, but I do not think he is Justin Jefferson. When you look at their stats, when you just go and look at their stats, Troy Franklin, his senior year, put 81 receptions, 1,383 yards, and 14 touchdowns. That's a damn good season. That is a very, very, very good season with a quarterback in Bo Nix, who he still has some developing to do if he is going to be a starter in the NFL. I don't think he's a starter right now. I honestly do not think that he can come in and start for an NFL team right now. He's got some developing to do, but nonetheless had a pretty good year. And obviously Troy Franklin had a very, very, very good year. put up great numbers, very, very great numbers. And when you compare it to Justin Jefferson had, this is one of the best college football seasons any player wide receiver has ever had. Justin Jefferson, 111 receptions, 1,540 yards, and 18 touchdowns in his junior year. And you can see the numbers from his sophomore year. I mean, it's like, something happened, something clicked. And that it wasn't just like that for him. It was like that for everybody. The entire LSU offense started clicking. That's why Joe Burrow was taken number one. So there's something to be said about, him being able to put up these numbers with the number one draft pick in Joe Burrow, right? His numbers were very good, but relative to what Troy Franklin put up, I think, the numbers are much closer. They LSU really, they aired it out. They did not, they had a decent running game, but they were airing it out. Joe Burrow was throwing it all over the field in 2019. That LSU offense was one of the best offenses in college football history. So when you look at those numbers, and Justin Jefferson putting up these numbers in the best offense, one of the best offenses in college football history compared to what Troy Franklin did, and, is not even considered close to one of the best offenses in college football history, I think it's impressive. And I think those numbers are very, very close. Now, when you look at their athletic, prowess and whatnot, the raw athletic score is called the RAS. You guys can look it up if you want to. Justin Jefferson coming out was a 9.69, and I believe Troy Franklin is like a 9.33. And basically, the only thing that puts Troy Franklin down below Justin Jefferson is the weight. Obviously, again, 30 pounds, weighing 30 pounds less than Justin Jefferson is obviously, he's not the same, not close to being the same athlete with that discrepancy in weight. But Justin Jefferson, 4.43 when he was coming out. Troy Franklin, 4.41. So there are a lot of similarities to this. And I was hoping that I wasn't crazy, but, watching tape, there's a lot that looks the same. And when you look at their builds, again, very similar. When you look at their 40 times, very similar. You look at their production, very similar. So this is a guy, I believe, if he comes into a good offense, right, which I think the Chargers are going to be a pretty decent offense next year. Obviously, we have the quarterback situation taken care of. If he was to come into that, I believe he can put up some numbers. I really do. And I like his wiggle. It's great. It's elite wiggle. I like that. It is completely opposite of what Quentin Johnston is. So I like this guy at 23 as far as the receivers go. Now, again, I don't think this situation is likely. I think the Chargers keep that 5th pick. But if they were to go for it, if they were just, feeling spontaneous, waking up feeling spontaneous on draft night and say, F it, let's do it, then I think this is a guy that the Chargers have probably been looking at. I think they've been looking at some of this tape, and I think the Justin Jefferson comparisons are legit. I think they're legitimate. Again, he's not Justin Jefferson. I'm not expecting anything Justin Jefferson-ish from him, but again, I'm just pointing out the styles of their game are very, very similar, and I'm interested to see what Troy Franklin does, in the NFL, what team he goes to. If it's not the Chargers, I'm going to be watching because I want to see if this guy can translate all of the college success to the NFL. But that is all I got for this video, guys. Just wanted to come on here and make a quick video and talk about who the Chargers can target if they were to, trade down and, decide to take more draft compensation as opposed to that 5th pick. So that's all I got for this one, guys. Thank you guys so much for all the support. Shout out to all of my new subscribers. I appreciate you guys. Shout out to all of my old subscribers. Appreciate you guys. Until next time.